Okay, hello to Lucid and to anybody else on Lucid's channel who happens to see this. It's Imperialis, and I figured I just did a sort of visual text-based explanation of how I fight, but then I figured, well, hey, I've got a microphone and some basic recording software. I may as well try and do a battle live. I am not a YouTuber, so fair warning, but expect a lot of ums. Anyhow, this is the same fleet as I showed you in the other video. I've got my apogee, some of the other stuff. Again, this is a modified run, and I just went and I tracked down a fairly straightforward bounty. Again, you're going to see some modded ships in here, but same principles apply regardless. So first thing, let's take a look at what we're up against. I've already gone over my fleet in considerable detail, so I won't do that. But the enemy here, we've got a junk class mining combat super freighter. Actually, when I first took this contract, I thought this was a battle barge or battle wagon, which is a significantly tougher ship. This is more of a heavy cruiser type. And then I've got this junker gunboat, which is fairly weak actually. It has no shield, so it's just a matter of tearing through its armor. And a pair of ventures, which are sort of solid, big, tanky, blocky cruisers that they can be dangerous, especially because these have medium missile mounts, and one of them is carrying a Reaper torpedo rack, so it can fire Reaper torpedoes at me, I believe, 10 times. And then an assortment of destroyers and some frigates up against my fleet here, which again is not a super powerful fleet. It's not really designed for combat. This is meant more for doing efficient deep dives into enemy space, or not enemy space, but into the periphery. But I figured I would take it out for this fight. I don't have any capital ships. I've got cruisers. This is a light cruiser, and these are two cruisers, and then packet destroyers, and then a bunch of frigates and support ships and stuff like that. So let's move into engage, and we'll just continue. I'm going to deploy my core fleet similarly to what I did last time. You can see too, I flew through a couple storms on my way here, and some of my ships are at lowered CR, including my flagship, which is somewhat sad. It can sort of handle CR, though it's got pretty good deployment ability. Now, one thing he does have is quite a few fighters, so I'm going to be aiming for some fighter superiority here. And hopefully try to engage him on those terms. I've got some pretty high quality fighters going on here, and yeah, going to deploy the chaff. I'm keeping the wolf pack in reserve again to track down any enemy, any fleeing enemies, and then I will do my PD collection. And I apologize if you can hear my cat in the background. But yeah, so you can see I'm at deploying about 179 supplies, or deployment points, with a projected cost of 170 supplies. This is important to keep relevant. I might be overspending on this, but it's probably pretty close to a balanced fight in this case, is my guess. But that just sort of comes from experience playing the game. So let's deploy. And now, first thing I'm going to do is set up my escorts. So I hunt around for my little escort frigates. So there, and there. And I want to set them on the ships that are going to struggle if they end up getting flanked by a whole bunch of fighters. Or struggle and I care about keeping alive. So first things first, I'm going to take one of the Omen and put it on my Barbarian. It has pretty terrible shields, it can get in over its head quite easily, and having an escort will help prevent that from happening. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to throw another Omen on my Heron. again, if your carriers get pressured, you're going to have a bad time. The Centurion, I am going to put on my Shrike because it's quite a powerful ship, but it's quite a fragile ship. And ideally, I would have a second PD frigate or a fourth PD frigate that I could put on the Hammerhead. Everybody else can kind of take care of themselves. Their shields are tanky enough, or like these guys, they're just going to be sort of moving around in a big blob anyhow, and escorting each other. The carriers are going to stick around more towards the back because they are all kitted out for longer range engagements and flak. So they're usually pretty good at taking care of themselves. I just have that Omen on the Heron just to be safe. So looking at the map now, we have the sensor jammers, the comm relays, and what these do is, can I pull it up? Oh yeah, it says in the lower left corner. So faster command point recovery, that's always good if you are issuing orders. You see I have 4 command points right now. Then we have the nav boys, which increase top speed, which is always good. And sensor jammers, which affects your ECM rating, which if you have more ECM than the enemy, it will lower their weapon range while increasing yours, and more range is always good. So speed, ability to issue orders, and range is basically what you need to think. So what I'm going to do here is issue some commands. We're going to start with capture orders on the nav boys, and now what this will do is it'll just send off individual frigates that don't have other orders to go and do that. Then I'm going to put a capture order here, and I am going to put a capture order here, and I'm interested in pushing up towards this sensor jammer, so I am going to right click, or left click rather, and set down a waypoint there, which I will turn into a defend order. So this is my initial setup. I'm hoping to meet the enemy. I suspect he's probably going to put more forces on this side because he's going to be interested in capturing these locations himself. And there'll probably be some light ship skirmishing around here. The ships that are going off this way are inevitably going to be ships that I don't particularly care about. They're going to either be typically it'll be frigates, sometimes it might be something like this Enforcer here is going to go off and muck around and have some fun over that way. So that's the initial setup. Let's go. And my sound is not working. Half a sec here. Sound is still not working. Like I said, I am not a YouTuber. You're going to have to imagine the pew 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 sounds. I would presumably have mucked something up in my settings. This is why I don't do this for a living. Okay, so we're starting to get sensor pings here. I'm going to give it another moment or two, pushing up towards that defensive, and we're just going to check here, see what we see. Okay, so we've got a bit of an engagement going on over here. That's a torch gunboat, and again, this is just playing the game. I recognize the things. I'm really not terribly happy with this guy over here. Seriously debating whether or not I want to open up my command point or spend another command point. And I guess I'll do it just to sort of explain. So I'm going to get him to go over and rejoin that. This is going to send him off. I'm also going to send a second frigate just to play around at that nav point there. And the timing wise, this means that the Enforcer should be arriving in enough time to go and get stuck in with his inevitable flanking attempt over there. You'll notice here where as soon as I issued the order, it lowered my command points by 1 and opened the command frequency. And what this means is as long as that is open, I can issue as many additional orders as I want without without spending more command points. So I'm going to kind of take advantage of that and just adjust a little bit more here. So I'm going to put my defend waypoint a little bit further ahead because I still haven't seen much of the enemy fleet. And I'm going to pause for 2 seconds here because my cat is yowling and I'm going to go see what he wants. Okay, my apologies. I am back. Still not entirely sure what he was complaining about, but I gave him food and now he seems happy. Or rather I shook his dish around because there was already food in it. So the other thing I want to do, since I have my command frequency open, is I'm going to set up a rally point for my carriers. And what that is going to look like is probably back here. I'm going to set a waypoint and then select, holding shift to select the multiples, all 3 of my carriers, and I can press Control 1 and assign them to a group, just like any other RTS game. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to send them off to rally here. Close enough to the front that they can provide support, but far enough back that they aren't going to get swarmed. I don't normally use command groups all that much, but I do like using them for carriers, especially if I have more than one, since it allows me to concentrate fighters where I need them. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a second, I'll push it forward a little bit maybe, second defend order there. And so I want him on that. I don't want, I'll send him up there. You don't really need to do that. I just wanted to move him over because he was closer. I'm also overthinking this battle because I am trying to explain everything as it goes. So, yeah, let's go. So we can see some of my forward ships, some of my faster ships are starting to engage. The initial goal here is going to be to get a battle line set up and start separating out some of their fighters from mine, or from the capital ships. Drive the capital ships back and take out frigates, basically, is the goal. Another quick check here, and we can see we've got a couple of their heavier ships coming in. It does look like this nav boy might be a little bit of a bridge too far. He's sending quite a few destroyers over there. And because of that, the AI, you'll notice, is automatically assigning more ships towards that capture point. I may or may not want them to keep doing that. I'm not sure yet, but as of right now, because it's pulling ships from back here, which is totally fine, I am fine with that. Worst comes to worst, I'll probably send some fighters out from here to go and harass down some of these. I am just going to keep piloting my ship up towards the middle here. And I'm actually going to start swinging it a little bit in this direction because I am a very good matchup against that mule. I'll just target him. You can see I've got his flux cranked up really high already. Basically right now I just want to drive him back and sort of punish anybody who pushes me. The goal right now is not to kill, it is to keep them occupied. Oh, he is. Noticed he had overloaded, so quick switch targets, and away we go. Okay, so checking out how the battlefield is evolving. Over here, it actually looks like we're doing pretty okay. We got probably more firepower over here than we need. We've got 3 frigates plus a destroyer fighting a kite and a torch. They do have Enforcer coming in, but I am not at all concerned about the right flank. The left flank, on the other hand, is somewhat more problematic. This Brawler is probably going to die, and this frigate here might also die. So now is the time to start issuing some more orders. So what we're going to do is we're going to cancel that defensive order. We're going to put a new defensive order in here. And then we are going to order a fighter strike on him. This is their unshielded cruiser. It carries a lot of missiles. It's basically like the Buffalo, except much bigger and nastier, but it doesn't have too much point defense, I don't believe. I can't remember exactly. That is one of the things with mods, is you quickly lose track of what ship is necessarily really good at others. So I'm going to select him anyhow and order a fighter strike on him. So now my carriers, I am going to move there. I'm going to cancel that rally point, and I am going to move their rally point over to here, selecting Task Force 1, and right-clicking to order them to move there. That's going to get them in better range to fight them. I am a little bit worried that I've pushed up too far this way, but to solve that, we will delete that and put an engage order on him. Yeah, that should be okay for now at least. He's a bit of a concern there, but I think I've got enough firepower on this side to not be too worried about it. Just drive some of the frigates back, and now I'm going to move in on him because he is engaged with one of my destroyers and my barbarian. And you can see this is where the shield tanking of the apogee really comes in handy. It is getting a little hot, so I'm going to extract myself. And he is nearly fluxed out, so I'm just going to keep the pressure on, keep pushing, keep pushing. Oop, 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 getting overwhelmed. This is a problem. Okay, took him out. Now I'm going to need to pull back and probably vent. But at this point, I'm fairly happy with how the battlefield is shaping up. So I am going to put an engage order on him because he continues to be a threat and he's getting uncomfortably close to my carrier group. And I am going to start ordering fighter strikes in on him. I want to try and clear some of the chaff out before going in for the kill on the capital ship. And just using my tactical lasers here as I back off to clean up some of this garbage. And I'm safe to vent. See, this is the other advantage of making sure that you have some frigates and stuff in your fleet, is because it gives you something to retreat behind when you start getting overwhelmed. Shoot, 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 shoot. So this guy's getting into trouble, but I'm not going to overcommit because, there we go. And at this point, the battle is basically done. I can go in and go on to full assault, and I am comfortable with this at this stage to just finish him off. And we're going to chop down this guy real quick. This ship is not a terribly efficient killer, Like, it's never going to burst down anybody super, super quick. But what I like about it is, one, its ability to tank, and two, oh, and he overloaded, so I'm going to send in some missiles, and away he goes. So now him, this is sort of the last thing we have approaching a real threat. And just because I can, I'm going to fire another one of those hurricanes. That's that hurricane MRV that I was talking about before, and you can see how effective it is. The rest of the loadout on this is basically tactical lasers and a variant that is similar to the there we go, we're done. That's similar to the auto pulse laser. It's just kind of a modded version of it. So that's the battle. Let's claim victory. And you can see they had a little bit retreat. I had nothing disabled or destroyed. And yeah, there we go.